Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading into a really unique spot, Great Basin National Park.
Yeah, it's tucked away over in east central Nevada, right near the Utah border.
And it's just dominated by Wheeler Peak, right? Huge mountain.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Over 13,000 feet, second highest in Nevada. The park itself, established '86, actually absorbed the old Lehman Caves National Monument.
Okay. And that location, it's not just a spot on the map, is it? It's key.
It really is. You've got these massive mountain ranges just shooting up out of this flat, dry desert.
Uh-huh.
It creates this phenomenon scientists call island biogeography.
Island biogeography, like islands in the desert.
Kind of, yeah.
Huh.
Think of the mountains as these ecological islands surrounded by a sea of, aridity.
So the plants and animals way up high are cut off from the ones down low.
Exactly. They get isolated, just like species on some remote ocean island. And that isolation, it drives unique adaptations, genetic differences, whole separate communities of life. It's basically a natural laboratory.
Which feels especially important right now.
Oh, absolutely. These isolated spots can be super sensitive to environmental changes, especially climate change. Studying what happens here, how things adapt or struggle, it gives us really invaluable clues.
So it's a climate change lab.
In a big way.
Yeah.
The park's specifically recognized for it. You've got the pristine air, the unique water systems, those isolated gene pools, relic species communities, all those caves. Plus that huge elevation change from desert floor right up to alpine tundra. It's like a recorder of deep time and present change.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We've got our sources ready. Our mission for this deep dive: explore the science, the deep history etched on the land, maybe uncover some secrets, and see what's planned for the future.
Sounds good. We promise by the end you'll see Great Basin is more than just a park. It's a living story about our planet.
Right. Where do we start? Deep time?
Let's start right at the bottom, literally.
Yeah.
The geology and paleontology, the foundation here is shaped by these just immense tectonic forces. The big one is the Southern Snake Range décollement.
Décollement. Okay, that sounds technical. What does that mean for, like, what we actually see?
Think of it like a giant tilted fault line. A massive ancient break where huge chunks of rock slid for miles over each other. This whole mountain range was essentially pushed up and sculpted by the Pacific Plate, diving under North America way back.
Millions of years ago. And the sources mentioned granite deep inside.
Right. Those are Pluton's enormous bodies of cooled magma left over from those same collisions back in the age of dinosaurs and even earlier. You can see these Jurassic, Cretaceous, Tertiary granites exposed today.
And that helps explain Wheeler Peak, right? It's not just tall, it's weird geologically.
It is pretty weird. Its crazy height is partly thanks to another fault, a Miocene detachment fault. It basically dragged incredibly old rock right up to the summit.
How old?
Cambrian Prospect Mountain quartzite. Rock that was seafloor like half a billion years ago, now sitting on top of a 13,000-foot peak.
Wow. Seafloor on the summit. That's wild. And the peak shows signs of ice ages, too.
Oh yeah, clear signs, big bowl-shaped cirques carved by glaciers, piles of rock moraines left behind, and there's even an active rock glacier up there now.
And it's got Nevada's last glacier, the Wheeler Peak Glacier.
That's the one. It's this mix of ice and rock, and, well, it's shrinking. A very visible sign of current climate change. Researchers watch it closely.
Okay, moving south a bit, there's Lexington Arch. Now, I usually think sandstone for arches, like in Utah. This one's different.
Totally different. It's carved from limestone. Late Cambrian, early Ordovician, Notch Peak limestone specifically.
Limestone arch, that's rare out west.
Pretty rare, yeah. Sandstone's much more common. But what's really interesting is the flowstone found at its base.
Flowstone, like in a cave, in an earth.
Exactly. It strongly suggests this arch wasn't just carved from the outside in. It was probably part of a bigger underground cave system, and the roof eventually collapsed, leaving the arch. It's like a window into a hidden underground world.
Which leads us nicely to the caves. The park is highly karstified, the sources say.
Right, that's the term for landscapes, where the rock, like limestone or marble, gets dissolved by slightly acidic water over, ages. It creates caves, sinkholes, underground rivers. There's an amazing plumbing system. About 36% of the park is this kind of carbonate rock. They know of 46 caves and rock shelters so far.
And Lehman Caves is the famous one, with amazing formations.
Spectacular formations, stalactites, stalagmites, and these really rare things called shield formations, over 300 of them. They're like these flat calcite discs growing sideways.
Sideways, huh?
Yeah, really unusual. And some formations even show signs of hydrothermal activity.
Mm.
Hot water circulating deep down long ago. These carbonate rocks, Pole Canyon limestone, Gilmet Formation, they're crucial.
Why are those specific rock types so important?
Because in this dry place, they act like sponges. Rain and snowmelt seep in, get stored underground, and then slowly releases springs. That water is the absolute lifeblood for the park's ecosystems.
And it supports that whole Great Basin internal drainage thing. Water flows in, never reaches the sea.
Exactly. It's a really delicate system. And the sources mention how vulnerable it is to things like potential groundwater pumping projects outside the park. Protecting the caves is vital. They even have their own Federal Protection Act.
So the geology is like the park's plumbing, keeping life going. But the rocks also hold clues to when this wasn't a desert.
Absolutely. The paleontology is amazing. Since 2011, they've found over 1,000 fossil specimens, things like receptaculites, an ancient sponge, or Orthoceras, like an ancient squid. Finding those is like finding a date stamp in the rock.
And such a variety. Algae, trilobites, early fish, from the Cambrian Ordovician.
Yep, in the Pioche Shale, Notchie Limestone, Fish Haven Formation, all these layers. And what does all that ancient sea life tell us?
That this dry desert was once underwater.
Completely submerged under warm tropical seas over 500 million years ago. It just hammered home how dramatically Earth changes over deep time. And it gives us clues about early life's evolution. These fossils are protected resources too, like the caves.
Okay, from ancient seas to modern life, let's talk about the ecosystems thriving in this island setting today.
Right. Despite being so dry overall, the park has surprising biodiversity. Over 800 plant species. Everything from sagebrush down low, up through fir forests, to those incredible western bristlecone pines near the top.
Ah, the bristlecones. They're famous for being ancient, right?
The oldest individual trees known on Earth, non-clonal ones anyway, some are well over 4,000 years old. There was that famous tragic story of Prometheus.
The one they cut down?
Yeah, accidentally, back in the 60s. Turned out it was nearly 5,000 years old. Really highlighted their age and scientific importance. While the absolute oldest one, Methuselah, is in California, the groves here have trees that are incredibly ancient.
How do they even survive that long up there? It looks so harsh.
They've got some amazing tricks. One is called sectored architecture.
Sectored architecture.
Yeah, think of it like the tree is built in segments. If one part of the trunk or a root dies off, other parts can keep living, just supporting a smaller part of the crown above.
Huh. Resourceful.
And their wood is incredibly dense, packed with resin. Makes it super resistant to insects, rot. They can stand as dead snags for centuries. They grow incredibly slowly in that cold, windy, high-altitude zone.
And their needles last for, like, decades.
Up to 40 years, yeah. Another adaptation. But beyond just surviving, their age makes them scientifically priceless. Their tree rings are climate archives.
Right, you call them climatic vaults.
Exactly. Each ring tells a story: rainfall, temperature, big volcanic eruptions maybe.
Mm.
By looking at patterns over thousands of years, scientists reconstruct past climates. That's dendrochronology.
And that's why the park is so key for climate change studies.
Precisely. These trees give us this incredibly long, continuous record. Helps us understand natural climate cycles versus what's happening now.
What about animals living on these mountain islands?
You get your typical western mammals,
Yeah.
jackrabbits, marmots, mule deer, pronghorn, elk at different elevations, but also species of concern like beaver, hardy bighorn sheep, and interestingly, lots of bats.
Bats. In the desert caves.
Yep, over 10 species. They rely on the caves and rock shelters. They're vital insect eaters. The Townsend's big-eared bat is one they watch closely. And birds too, 136 native species, especially down in the sagebrush country.
But like the geology, some of the most unique life is hidden underground.
Oh, the cave ecosystems are incredibly special and fragile. They have 11 known endemic species.
Endemic meaning only found there.
Absolutely nowhere else on Earth. Creatures totally adapted to permanent darkness, constant temperature, high humidity.
Like what kind of creatures?
Well, there's the white pine amphipod. It's a tiny shrimp-like thing, totally white, no eyes, and the Great Basin Cave pseudoscorpion. Looks like a tiny scorpion, but no tail or stinger.
Wow, that really shows that isolation effect.
It really does. These underground worlds are like frontiers for biology and so vulnerable. Protecting them is crucial.
And what about fish in the high streams?
Just one native fish species survives up there in the cold streams, the Bonneville cutthroat trout. It's a genetically unique relic strain. The park works with partners on efforts to protect and reintroduce them.
So deep geology, unique life. But people have been part of this picture for a long, long time too.
Incredibly long. Archaeological evidence puts Native Americans here maybe 14,000 years ago, right as the last ice age ended. The ancestors of the Shoshone and Goshute people have incredibly deep connections to this land.
And the Fremont people.
Yeah, they were here roughly 1000 to 1300 AD, left behind village sites like the one near Baker, and some really interesting rock art you can see some in Upper Pictograph Cave.
It must have been tough living there.
It required amazing knowledge of the land. They were semi-nomadic, skilled hunters, gathering pine nuts, berries, using everything the landscape offered. Early Euro-Americans often misunderstood that lifestyle, saw it as primitive.
But the sources say that's wrong.
Completely wrong. It emphasizes these were adaptable, complex cultures with rich traditions, beliefs, deep ecological knowledge, not primitive at all. The sources even call out that common story of invaders thinking the people they displace have no rights. This land is sacred to the Shoshone and Goshute.
Specific places too, right?
Absolutely. Places like the Swamp Cedars area just north of the park are culturally vital. And you can't talk about the history without acknowledging the really painful parts. The conflict, the massacres, the forced removals that devastated the indigenous peoples here, the Western Shoshone, Goshute, Ute, Paiute, and Washoe.
Then came the explorers from the east.
Jedediah Smith crossed Sacramento Pass in 1827, first recorded crossing. His journals show how much he relied on native guides, even with the biases of his time. Later, John C. Fremont came through, coined the name Great Basin, figured out that internal drainage pattern.
And after explorers, often come miners.
Yep. People looking for gold, tungsten. That's actually how Absalom Lehman found the caves in 1885 he was prospecting. And high up on Wheeler Peak, the Johnson Lake area was a big tungsten mine, especially during World War I. Just ruins now, but you can hike up there.
Ranching has a long history too.
Over a century, a stable livelihood for many families. But here's an interesting twist. When the park was created in '86, the law actually required grazing to continue.
Required it? That seems counterintuitive for a park.
It was a definite conflict. Took a 9-year effort involving groups like the Conservation Fund and Senator Harry Reid to eventually buy out the grazing permits from willing ranchers. Most cattle grazing ended in '99.
And there's another human mark on the landscape, the arborglyphs. Carvings on trees.
Yeah, on aspen trees.
Yeah.
It's mostly made by Basque sheep herders, starting late 1800s, later Peruvian herders too, into the 1990s. These guys were alone for months, tending sheep. They'd carve names, dates, pictures, hometowns into the bark with pocket knives. Some go back to 1908.
Like little messages left behind?
Exactly. There are cultural resources, really poignant records of loneliness, that desire to connect, leave a mark. But the sources also note they are wounds on the trees, potential spots for disease. So the park is trying to find and document them before they disappear naturally.
It really feels like this whole human history, indigenous presence, explorers, miners, ranchers, herders, it's like a mini history of the American West right here.
It really is. That constant tension between using the land and trying to preserve it. And that history shapes the challenges the park faces today, balancing visitors, local economies, and protecting everything for the future.
Okay, so given all that incredible background, the geology, life, history, what's it actually like to visit? What are the must-dos?
Well, the absolute number one is Lehman Caves, Nevada's longest cave system, found way back in 1885. Just stunning formations inside, those rare shields we mentioned earlier. You see them there.
And you need a tour.
Yep. Always ranger-guided tours to protect the cave.
Yeah.
Different lengths available, but definitely book ahead, especially in summer. They also screen you for white nose syndrome prevention to protect the bats.
Right, makes sense. And the park's famous for its night sky, too.
Oh, yeah. It's an official international dark sky park, one of the darkest places in the lower 48. High altitude, dry air, remote location, minimal light pollution. On a good night, you can often see the Andromeda Galaxy just looking up, see Jupiter's bands, Saturn's rings.
And they really embrace the astronomy theme.
They do. There's an annual astronomy festival, usually in September, plus weekly ranger programs all summer. They treat the dark sky as a natural resource, just like the caves or mountains, something to protect and learn from.
Another way to see those changing environments is the scenic drive.
The Wheeler Peak Scenic Drive, yeah. It's great. Paved road, 13 miles, climbs 4,000 feet. You go from sagebrush desert up through different forests to the alpine zone. The change is so quick, they say it's like driving from Nevada to the Yukon.
Wow.
It's open year-round up to the Upper Lehman Creek campground area. And there's a cool audio tour on the MPS app that explains the different life zones as you go up.
And lots of hiking options.
Tons. The Bristlecone and Glacier Trail is super popular, moderate, 4.8 miles round trip. Takes you right to the glacier remnant and through those ancient trees. Great way to cool off in summer.
Or else.
You can hike out to Lexington Arch, see that weird limestone formation up close. Or hike to Upper Pictograph Cave. Respectfully check out the rock art,
And for the serious hikers.
the Wheeler Peak Summit Trail. It's tough, mostly because of the altitude over 13,000 feet, but it's a well-kept trail, technically just walking, class 1. On the other end, the Mountain View Nature Trail is easy, down low.
And you can hike to the old mines.
Yep, the Johnson Lake Historic Mining District hike. Strenuous, about 7.4 miles round trip, takes you to those WWI-era tungsten mine ruins. Fascinating history, but be really careful, stay out of any open mine shafts. Super dangerous.
Good warning. And that brings up other safety things for visitors.
Definitely, altitude sickness is real. Go easy your first day. Carry way more water than you think you need, and know how to treat stream water. Sturdy shoes are a must. It's rocky everywhere. Stay on trails. The alpine plants and soil crusts are incredibly fragile. And yeah, avoid those mines.
We've covered so much, but the sources talk about unveiling secrets, things that make Great Basin extra special.
Right, like looking a bit deeper. Take the bristle cones again. The secret isn't just that they're old. It's how they get old, that sectored architecture, the dense wood, their incredible resilience, and their scientific value as climatic vaults.
The Prometheus tree really drove that home.
Exactly. Cutting it down, tragically, revealed thousands of years of climate data locked inside. They're not just trees. They're living records.
And Lexington Arch, its secret is the mystery.
Pretty much. Why limestone, not sandstone? And that flowstone suggesting it was part of a bigger cave system. It hints at this huge, hidden underground story we don't fully know yet.
What about the observatory?
Its secret is that it's the only research-grade observatory inside a national park. It wasn't just built for tourists. It was a partnership specifically for astrophysics research and education, giving scientists worldwide access to those amazing dark skies. It's a quiet scientific powerhouse.
And the arbor-glyphs, the tree carvings.
Their secret is more emotional, maybe? That poignant reflection of human loneliness, the need to connect, leave a trace, but also how even small human actions, those wounds on the trees, interact with the environment. It's subtle.
So what's the ultimate secret of the park, then?
I think its critical, maybe often overlooked, role as a living laboratory for global climate change research. It's more than just scenic. It's uniquely set up to help us understand this huge challenge.
How so? What makes it unique for that?
It preserves so many different climate records spanning millions of years, all in one place. You've got fossils showing ancient climates, cave formations recording rainfall, sediment cores from old lakes, pack rat middens trapping plant history, the glaciers, the tree rings, and the bristle cones, even archaeological sites showing how people adapted before.
All layered together.
Exactly. That combination makes it an unparalleled place for scientists to study long-term environmental change and help predict our future.
That's actually incredible. It elevates the park's importance way beyond just being a nice place to visit.
It really does. And that leads right into how the park is preparing for the future, infrastructure, conservation, and all the partnerships that make it happen.
Right. The sources mention construction and upgrades.
Yeah, so if you visit soon, you might see some temporary disruptions, maybe parking changes, construction traffic. For instance, Lower Lehman Creek Campground is getting a big overhaul starting May 2025 through the winter, adding sites, improving accessibility.
But these are needed investments?
Oh, definitely strategic.
Yeah.
Things like replacing the really old 1960s water and sewer systems near the visitor center that's funded by the Great American Outdoors Act. It's crucial for protecting the environment, visitor safety, making things sustainable. They've already finished projects like repaving roads, improving safety in Lehman Caves, and upgrading the Bristlecone Trailhead area.
And conservation work beyond fixing pipes.
It's ongoing and science-based. They're still working on protecting and reintroducing the Bonneville cutthroat trout, usually with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. After fires, they do burned area rehabilitation like aerial seeding, tackling invasive plants in places like Strawberry Creek to help native plants like aspen and streamside vegetation bounce back.
And keeping tabs on the bats.
Yep, doing BioBlitz events to monitor bat populations. Plus, park archaeologists are busy recording artifacts, inscriptions in the caves, researching sites for the National Register.
And rehabilitating an old orchard. That sounds interesting.
That's pretty cool. Fixing up the historic Lehman Orchard, planting pear, apple, peach trees suited to the climate, using water-saving drip irrigation, a mix of preserving history and modern conservation. And woven through all this is that continuing role as a prime lab for climate change research.
And it sounds like they don't do any of this alone. Partnerships are key.
Absolutely vital. The Great Basin National Park Foundation is a huge help with fundraising, supporting education programs like Reach for the Stars for kids, the Astronomy Festival, even research at the observatory.
Those star trains sounded like a fun partnership.
Yeah, a great community thing. They partner with the Nevada Northern Railway for those historic train rides, plus stargazing. Needs lots of local volunteers. Universities were key too. UNR, Western Nevada College, Southern Utah, Concordia helped get the observatory built. UNR also helps with wilderness medicine training and research.
Any other key partners?
Lots. Nevada Adaptive Wildlife for the trout work. Groups like Wilderness Volunteers help with projects. Great Basin Institute folks are working on the orchard. Nevada Conservation Corps does trail work. And the Western National Parks Association helps with educational materials and funding. This whole network brings in money, expertise, labor, new ideas. The park couldn't do it all otherwise. It's essential.
Wow, it really paints a picture of a place that's not just naturally significant, but scientifically and historically rich, with a lot of dedicated people working together.
For sure. Great Basin National Park is so much more than just pretty mountains. It's this dynamic system, a crucial scientific resource, a deep well of history, and really a model for how conservation can work. You've got the island ecology, the half-billion-year story in the rocks, the unique life from bristle cones to cave critters, the layered human story, and those amazing visitor experiences from deep caves to dark skies.
And underpinning it all, that vital role as a living laboratory, helping us understand climate change.
It's a powerful combination.
So we'll leave you with this thought to chew on, thinking about everything we dove into today. When you consider Great Basin's vast timeline in stone and life, its isolated ecosystems driving unique adaptations and those layers of human presence alongside dedicated conservation. What does this place teach us about change itself? Geological change, climate shifts, life evolving, cultures transforming, and how does thinking about that deep time and enduring landscape maybe shift your perspective on our own, well, fleeting place within it all?
Yeah, just think about all those layers of time and life packed into one really special place.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.